5 years ago, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. In the country I got diagnosed in, we don't do the type system, you know, like type 2 and type 1. Type 1 includes mania, whereas type 2 doesn't, and based on that, I would put myself in the type 2 bracket, because I don't think I've experienced full-blown mania, but I've had very intense hypomania in any case. Like, I've been disconnected from reality a little. Essentially, following an realization about a traumatic experience I had when I was younger, that led to the onset of bipolar symptoms. So I had my first hypomanic episode that lasted about 4 days. Because I'd been depressed previously, but I had never experienced hypomania, and because I was having mental health problems in general around that time, this is when I started getting into like reading about mental disorders. I genuinely am interested in psychology, so it wasn't strange for me to look up this stuff anyway. But I remember recently having read about bipolar disorder, so it was kind of fresh in my mind. I was actually trying to find like what I now call a breakdown / meltdown / catatonia episode, because it was such an intense and scary experience. I was like, what the fuck is that? And I was googling all the mental conditions to try and figure out like where that episode fit in. So I'd read recently about bipolar disorder and I was like, yeah, it's not bipolar disorder. But then like maybe a few weeks later, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, I felt like a major surge of energy. Like, I was depressed. I was so depressed for the last like 4 months. Like, I was not eating properly, I was not leaving my bed, I didn't do any chores, like I was bed rotting all the time. And then suddenly I was like, let me vacuum the walls, let me mop, let me vacuum the floor, let me wipe the surfaces, let me do the dishes, let me shower, let me go to the grocery store, let me walk 7 kilometers into the nearest town and then walk back. Let me sit and eat grass and talk to the cows. Oh, and let me talk non-stop. I mean, I talk a lot anyway, but this was like insane levels of talking, and I lived alone at this time. Yeah, so I was like, yo, this kind of sounds like that hypomania I was reading about. Like, no way. And then it was followed by a crash. So I went back to feeling very depressed, and I was like, okay, this looks like that thing. Let me keep an eye on it, kind of thing. And it was very clear. It was very much like episodic as fuck. Like, I would stay in a hypomanic state for 3 to 7 days usually, and then I'd be depressed. And that followed. Like, that was not the only episode. It was back to back to back to back. Hypomania, depression. Hypomania, depression. Hypomania, depression. I was what is called rapid cycling, so I was just going, which makes sense considering how much of a terrible time I was having. But the hypomania was honestly respite, because I felt good about myself, I had energy to do things except for eat. Eating is horrible in hypomania. Food tastes like shit. You know how people say like when you do like uppers, eating isn't pleasant? It feels like that, which makes me think, is there a similar chemical process happening in the brain? Because that's what it's like. Like, I was not interested in eating, and when I ate food, it just tasted horrible. Even things I usually like to eat. Eating was tricky, but everything else was super easy to do, and I was really creative and I was making more stuff. It kind of helped to not be depressed all the time, I will say. Going on those walks, and because it was summer as well, so it was lovely weather, and sitting on that little ditch and talking to the cows, that was genuinely like highlight. But then I remember like someone pulling up and being like, "You're alright." And I was kind of telling him my whole life story. Like, "Oh yeah, I just live up there." Like, no, don't tell the guy where you live. Like, oh my goodness, you know, nothing bad happened. He was just being friendly. At that time, coffee used to make me hypomanic, and now I drink coffee every day, and it does not make me hypomanic at all. It's interesting that used to happen, so don't do this at home, kids, if you have bipolar. But I used to trigger hypomania, so if I felt really depressed, I would drink coffee on purpose, and it would send me into hypomania, which I don't know why it doesn't do that anymore. Then I ended up getting a community mental health team. They were really good. Like, I have so much love for them. And they helped me get on lithium. We tried a few other medications like antipsychotics as well at the time. But some of them I didn't try, like olanzapine, benzodiazepine, or diazepam, because I felt like the side effects weren't worth like the level of manic I was. Like, I was hypomanic, but I feel like I'd only be willing to try those things if I was like manic, because of how bad the side effect profile is. So thankfully, when I would tell them like, look, I don't want to try this, but I'm open to trying this, they would listen. I'm super grateful to them. But there are a few antipsychotics I tried on top of lithium, which was like Seroquel, but that made me need to fucking sleep so bad. Like, oh my god, I was so drowsy. I felt tranquilized, for real. Like, I would take it, and then I'd be like, about 40 minutes later, it's like an uncontrollable need to sleep. But it does help in a manic episode. Like, you will not feel manic anymore after that. But you will feel super tired the next day, that's the only problem. And then what was the other one I tried? Oh, Abilify / aripiprazole. Oh, this one made my bones feel wrong in my body. I have no better way of describing it other than like it felt like my bones were wrong. Like, I could sit down, I could lie down. Lie down was sort of okay. If I was stood up or sat down, my body would feel so uncomfortable, and it's such a hard thing to describe it because it wasn't itchy. I wasn't restless per se. It just felt like my bones were suddenly wrong because I could never feel at ease. I was always just like, I want to just like not exist because of the physical discomfort right now. And it actually gave me visual distortions. Like, I remember reading on the bus, like my phone, like a webpage, and the letters started like floating away, and I was like, isn't this supposed to stop things like this? And then also, I would get jumped so easily, like everything would make me jump, like even things that weren't actually there were making me jump, like even just like a little thing, like it feel like there's little things moving around all the time, but they didn't seem to actually be there. But thankfully I told my team that, and they were like, yeah, let's cut that out of your system, as like, let's titrate you as soon as possible. So again, God sends, because I know a lot of doctors don't typically like listen to you. It's like, bro, it's my body. How are you telling me what I can do with my body? Oh, I almost forgot. Oh my god. Because I got prescribed a medication before I went to the mental health team. So I started lithium and got diagnosed with the mental health team, but a few months before that, when I was in the in-between state, they did prescribe me a mood stabilizer called lamotrigine / Lamictal. I hated this drug. It caused me to have a week-long fever. It was during COVID, but I had a COVID test and I hadn't been leaving the house. It was giving me like a little dotty rash underneath my skin, which Lamictal is kind of famous for this really rare but really, really severe side effect called SJS, or Stevens-Johnson syndrome, which is like a condition where your body basically burns from the inside out. I thought I was getting it from that, so I immediately stopped taking it. And yeah, that fever was horrible. Like, I was living alone and it was summer and I had a fever and I thought I was gonna die. So, I mean, yeah, I know I wanted to die at that time, but I didn't want to die like that, goddammit. Yeah, but other than, like, before the fever set in, it made me, like, numb. Like, I would be saying a sentence, and then I'd forget what I was saying midway. I noticed when I was typing, like, I would miss words or get words the wrong way around. So cognitively, it was really affecting something. It gave me these really intense, vivid dreams. I had, like, reoccurring dreams of, like, being chased and home invasions. Home invasions was something I had a lot, but they made the home invasion dreams really vivid and intense. I will say, I very much love exploring dreams, so that wasn't so bad when the dream was, like, not a nightmare. I enjoyed that side effect, I will say, because I do really like exploring dreams. Like, I used to be a lucid dreamer. I will not risk taking Lamictals without a doubt. But yeah, lithium was really, really a good Lithium worked really well for me. I took that for around 3 years, and then eventually, when I was more stable all around, I stopped taking it, and I stayed stable. Like, if I need to go back on it, I understand it's an option, which is great, but also I didn't want to continue taking it if it wasn't necessary. I did have a bit of during an incredibly stressful period last year, but I did start drinking again and such, which affected me, of course. And certain medications that I take, that I used to take for my psoriatic arthritis, and you know, I think mental health issues makes autoimmune more common. I don't think I'd have autoimmune if I didn't have such a stressed out brain, to be honest. But yeah, the medication that I took for arthritis sent me hypomanic too, so there are a few things that triggered it then. But I will say overall that I've been doing really well, and it's just important to keep my stress levels low. And so I've tailored my life to have much less stress. I don't work full-time anymore. That's just a non-negotiable. I'm not working full-time anymore. As an example, obviously not everybody can do that. I'm grateful to have been able to do that. But the title obviously says, I think having bipolar saved my life, and here is why. Particularly during the time that my ex-boyfriend cheated on me, and I was incredibly suicidal at this point. I've been suicidal before, but it was this time that I was like, no, I'm actually gonna do it. And I did make plans to do it, and I started enacting on them. I don't want to give too many details in this video. Maybe this will be like a Substack thing, again, for those who want to look into that. I don't actually know if I would have gotten out of the situation if I didn't become hypomanic for about 2 weeks. I think that is what prevented me from ending my life, or at least attempting to end my life. If I was unable to come out of that depression via, albeit complete 180 and to dangerous zones, I exhibited some interesting behavior during that time. My ego became really inflated. I didn't care about any consequences. All I wanted to do was enjoy life. That was it. I was like, I'm just gonna go out all the time, I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna hang out with people, I'm gonna do whatever. I was like, I just need to be stimulated at all times, and I was just constantly seeking that stimulation. I had great times. I had great times. Having those great times was just hard evidence, you can enjoy life. You just enjoyed it. And even though it was during hypomania or whatever, that doesn't take away the fact that I did have fun. And it was proof that I can be happy, even after having experienced what I just experienced. Obviously, this is not to say hypomania wins and everything. And that it's a great thing, because it can be an incredibly destructive thing, and I've put myself in fairly, unsavory situations on a Sunday morning, 4 a.m, yelling at men on the street. They weren't being appropriate, but, it wasn't safe. Despite those things. I'm really grateful for it at the end of the day. I really am. One other good thing that came out of being hypomanic is, up until this point, I'd been very caring and understanding with my ex-boyfriend. We're in this in middle space for a while. After he cheated, I was still can I just ask, why it happened? How do you feel about her? Oh, I understand, and just being way too understanding about it. I was still in a very good position with him because of how understanding I was. But when I became hypomanic, something flipped in my brain, and I was like, wait. I'm angry! I'm angry at him! Wait, what? He cheated on me? Wait, what? And it was I had this whoa! And I had this realization suddenly that I was being way too fucking cool about this! What is wrong with me? So I ended up sending him this huge paragraph suddenly. You weren't good to me, I can't believe you cheated on me, and blah, blah, blah. Not all of it was coherent because I was hypomanic, but I was raging. I was raging at him, and then when he wrote me back, not responding how I wanted, I was sending voice notes how dare you! Rah, 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 rah. Here's one beautiful thing that hypomania gave to me. It gave me self-respect in a way. Nobody could trample on me, nobody could wrong me, nobody could fuck me over whilst I was having manic, because I would tell them about it. I would not resist. And I kind of learned from that. So even when I'm not hypomanic anymore, I still I'm like, no, enforce that boundary, enforce it. Hypomania forced me into a position of complete liberty that I'd not experienced in my life, and it taught me that it's possible. Like, it wasn't a position I would ever put myself in without hypomania, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful lesson. Like, it's a beautiful thing from a really shitty illness. Yeah. Again, I hope it's something for someone out there that if you're struggling with mental illness or bipolar, like, it's not a life sentence. Death sentence? Life sentence? It's not a death sentence. Life sentence. Oh, yes, both work, I suppose. It's not a life sentence. That's been largely my experience with bipolar. To summarize, how long have I been talking for? 29 minutes, so summarize is a strong word. I really hope you found this interesting and informative. I never know how to sign out these. If you enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate it if you left a like. It would help me out very much. And if you really liked it, and you maybe like the look of the other videos, I talk about my life experiences as well as like my thoughts and things, and just trying to make this dark world a little bit lighter. If you like that sort of thing, please subscribe. But regardless of whether you stay or go, I wish you an absolutely blessed day, week, month, year, life. All the best.